Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's podcast. My name is Gonzalo Santamaria. I'm Vice President of Currency Research. And today we'll be talking with the chair of the Central Bank Payments Conference, Jean Michel Godeffroy. Welcome, Jean Michel.
Good afternoon, Gonzalo. Good afternoon.
So today I thought we would discuss a little bit on a little bit of our thinking and our planning in terms of how we've come about our ideation towards a central bank payments conference, some of the things that we've done in order to drive the content towards the event. And Jean-Michel, perhaps maybe from your perspective as a start, maybe you can tell us a little bit of a quick history of yourself and currency research with respect to central bank payments conference, just for everyone's information.
Thank you, Gonzalo. Yes, when we started the Central Bank Payments Conference in 2017, basically it was a mixture of two competencies, I would say. Currency research competencies in organizing high-level conferences for central banks. And on my side, I just left the European Central Bank and was fresh with a lot of topical issues in the central bank agenda. So we combined our two competencies into this Central Bank Payments Conference. And this is, I don't know, perhaps the eighth conference that we are doing. We've done two of them remotely during the COVID. And that was not best, because what people like in our conference is not only hearing about topics, but also networking. And networking is very important, and you cannot do that remotely.
That's
you have
right.
to be
The
physically present.
face-to-face, I think we also agree that has the most value. And maybe let's talk a little bit about content. We've always tried to deliver the best content within the events. Tell us a little bit of from your perspective, the techniques that we've employed in terms of developing the discussion topics to understand how we choose the topics that we choose to place and discuss on the program.
I think it's important to understand that what we do, we are not running a conference, an education conference. Many central banks are doing that, and it's very helpful. We are, in fact, concentrating on topical issues. So we assume people coming in the conference have a minimum level of competence in payment systems. We help them because we have a pre-conference just before the conference to, let's say, deepen some new topics. But our conference is more on topical issues. So that's why we have a different conference every year. And my role is to try to understand what is new, what are the topics which are being discussed in the central bank community. And to do that, to understand what are the topics, I think first, of course, it's linked to my readings, the reading of reports, reading of the central bank payment news, for example, which is an important source of information to understand what happens in the central bank community. Very important also are conferences, and first of all, the CIBOS conference, where the banking community meets to discuss payments, central banks, and also many other some commercial banks in particular. And this gives me an idea of what are the topics in the air. It gives us also the possibility to discuss with people, including central banks. And I think this is also important to meet some central banks, in particular in the European region. I'm afraid I'm based in the European region. I can go easily to London, to Paris. I'm in Paris. I can go easily to Brussels. I can go easily to Amsterdam, to Frankfurt, of course. So I can meet these central bankers and try to understand what is really the topics of the day. What are they discussing among themselves? What are they discussing in their central bank, what are the topics of the CPMI, for example, and then try to see what are the topics we should put on our agenda. Important also is the feedback from the previous conference. What a topic which is on all our conferences is cyber resilience. Why is it so? Because each time central banks say, next year we want more about cyber resilience, because this is really a major issue for them. So the feedback from the previous conference is also an important element to know what will be the topics of the next year.
Yes, thank you, Jean Michel. I think it's worthy also to note that Currency Research has a team spread out across the globe. And within our history and credibility with the central bank relationships, that we also meet with global representatives to understand also and complement the meetings that we have on in the European community and close in the G20 area, especially. So always good to highlight that. Perhaps maybe something that's very key and something that I know you do very with a very close focus is you ask speakers to complement the topic that they will be discussing with documentation, collateral, white papers, etc. Tell us a little bit about why you do that and what benefit that brings to all the delegates to the CBPC event.
I think what is important is that the we something we should do better, because I think we is get documentation from the central banks. I mean, we should welcome them presenting papers and so on. We cannot promise that simply because you say, okay, I've prepared a paper for my central bank, then automatically you will have a speaking slot in our conference, because the speaking slots are very limited in number. But if you have worked on something which is particularly important, please inform us. And either we would invite you to speak about your paper, or maybe more likely, we are going to ask you to participate in a panel discussion where what you have worked in your central bank will be helpful in the discussion. So we perhaps we should have more interaction with the people who have attended our conference, or also central bankers who have not attended the conference, but who have prepared something specific which they might wish to disseminate in the central bank community. I take this opportunity to clarify that we are not a closed shop for central banks. There might also be people outside of the central bank community who have worked on an issue. I mean, many non-central bankers have worked on CBDC. CBDC is a very interesting topic, and many non-central bankers have worked on the central bank digital currency. Well, that's okay. It's okay. If you think there is something which is of interest for the central banks, then don't hesitate to contact Gonzalo or anybody in the currency research team or myself, so that we can take into account this information in building our program. I take this opportunity, Gonzalo, to clarify that this year is very special, because this year we are preparing the Kuala Lumpur event in June 24, and then we are also preparing now the next conference, which will be in February 25. And the timing between the two conferences, it's a question of organization for currency research. Maybe you can say a few words on that, Gonzalo. But it's important that given the limited time we have between the two conferences, it's important that you do not hesitate to contact us now, not only for 24, but also for 25. Because let's be clear, we will not add any topic for 24 for Kuala Lumpur. Now we are at the time in the preparation of the conference where we cannot change in substance. We are looking for speakers and so on. We cannot change fundamentally the program for 24. But already now, when people come to me and say, why do you not discuss that in your conference? I say, okay, fine, let's speak about 25. So we are now looking for speakers for 24 and for topics for 25.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Jean Michel, for that. And maybe perhaps one last question, so that to make sure that we keep this brief but interesting for the audience, is the relationship. I know I mentioned the G20 before, and obviously we always have a lot of high level speakers from that group leading the way, but it's equally important to include also the emerging markets. Tell us a little bit about how you see that combination and the importance of having one or the other within the program to understand the issues on both sides there.
Let's say when you speak about G20, you have also emerging markets, but they are big emerging markets typically on the G20. What is interesting in our conference is that any central bank in the world, from the smallest to United States, to the Federal Reserve of the United States and the ECB, I mean, anyone is welcome. And the reason why they come, even the reason why the central banks of let's say, the G20, who have a lot of opportunities to meet among themselves, the reason they come at high level in our conference is because we offer them the possibility to discuss with central banks they are not discussing typically otherwise. And this is, of course, the same for a central bank of Mozambique or Zimbabwe. They come, not necessarily every year, but from time to time, they come to our conference to have the opportunity also to speak and network with other central banks. Central banks tend to meet in clusters. In our conference, I think it's in one of the rare occasions where every central bank is welcome to discuss central bank issues. And whether you are from a small country in Latin America or one of the major countries of the G20, all central banks in the world have some issues in common. And this is what we are discussing. And this is the reason why they come at high level, even central banks will have a lot of opportunities to meet otherwise.
Thank you very much, Jean-Michel. Very well said, very well put. I think so. With that, I just wanted to thank you, Jean-Michel, for your time during this quick, brief podcast. And to you, the audience, we look forward to your comments, your feedback, your likes, and interacting with you, hopefully, in some of our future events and initiatives. So thank you very much, Jean-Michel, for your time. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Gonzalo.